In this video, we're going to be dimensioning the guest cottage that we did back in chapter 4. So we're in chapter 6 right now, learning about architectural dimensioning. So we've got the guest cottage, and we're just going to be putting, you guys used all these dimensions when you built the guest cottage. We're just going to actually go into AutoCAD and dimension those now. So we're going to start off by creating our new dimension style. We're going to call it Arc 24. And then we will come in here and set up all of these settings. Now notice that the screenshots that you're going by in the book are a little bit scattered looking. It's actually for a reason. We're going to start with primary units. You can't make other changes until you've set your units to architectural, which is fractions. There's other tabs that need AutoCAD to be set up as fractions before you can change those settings. So it's a little bit weird, I know, at first when you're looking at it, that it's got primary units as first and then symbols and arrows, but there is actually a logic to that, and we'll see that as we get started. I'm going to move this off to my other screen and we'll just follow along. So if you'll flip in your book to chapter 6, we're going to get started on this. So I've pulled up the guest cottage, and it should look like this when you're first starting off. You do this in chapter 4. And we are going to first create a dimension style. So I'm going to click on the annotate ribbon. And notice we've got, by default, just an annotative and a standard dimension style. So we're going to click on this tiny little arrow right here, pulls up our dimension style. You can also do the format pull down, go to dimension style. Lots of ways you can get there. I always do the tiny little arrow here. And we're going to say new. We're going to create a new one. We're going to start with standard, but we're going to use the name Arc 24. We'll say continue. And here we go. We've got our new dimension style. We're going to just follow the screenshots here. So we've got primary units. We'll change our units to be architectural, which puts us into fractions. Horizontal, this looks good. The only thing we need to do here is make sure we're suppressing 0 feet, but not 0 inches. So uncheck that part that says 0 inches down here. The next one, we'll click over to symbols and arrows. And this time we need to change it from an arrowhead to an architectural tick. So we're going to change it to an architectural tick. We're going to set our arrow size to be 1/16. Make this line, and break size 1/8 inch. It looks good. All right. The next one we're going to click on is lines. So we'll click on the lines tab at the top here. Always leave this by block. If you ever get this option, leave it by block. We don't want to change colors or line types or line weights to look like it's something else. Now this option here to extend beyond ticks, the reason we had to do symbols and arrows first is we had to set it to a tick. Otherwise this would be grayed out if it was arrows. So extend beyond ticks, we're going to make that 3/16 inch. Baseline spacing 3 inches or 3/8 inches, good. 3/16 here, 1/16 here, that looks good. So the only thing we really had to change was extend beyond ticks. The next one is the text tab. So we're going to set our text to be standard, but I do want to click on this little ... Here we go. That's going to pull up our text style manager. We do need to make sure, back in chapter 4, we set our text style called standard. We set it to be using the Stylus BT font. Make sure that yours is set to Stylus BT here. We'll cancel out of that. And let's see, we've got it standard. We need our text height to be 1/8 inch. Fraction height scale, we want to set this to, yeah, we can leave it at 1 here. We're going to change our offset from dimension line to be 1/16. That is how far our text is sitting above the dimension line. We need to actually set it. I haven't done that yet, but we're going to click here, click on above. So our text is going to sit above the dimension line, and 1/16 inch is how far above that line it is. And we're also going to select this option here for aligned with dimension line. That's what's going to rotate our text for these side dimensions here. So this looks good. The last thing we need to do is come to the fit option and just make it look like what we see here. So either text or arrows is fine, beside the dimension line is fine, but down here where it says use an overall scale of, we're going to scale it up by 24. So that's why we're calling it arc 24. We're going to take all of these dimensions, 1/8 of an inch sitting next to a 18-foot wall is teeny tiny. But when we come over here, we're going to say that 1/8 of an inch needs to be scaled up 24 times so that it, in proportion to the guest cottage itself, it comes out to be the right size, so we can scale this whole thing to fit it down on a sheet of paper. And all right, looks good, and I'll say okay to this. So my dimension style is ready to go, arc 24. We'll select it and we'll set that current. That way when we come back to our drawing, arc 24 is our current dimension style.